Professor G, we've determined that all MS is progressive from the start. So is the term secondary progressive still useful? How would you describe so-called SPMS?
I don't like the term SPMS. As I've said, I think MS is one disease. Somebody with secondary progressive disease has just got to a point where they've lost the reserve capacity, their compensatory mechanisms in a particular pathway. The brain and spinal cord is not just one organ. Built into that, there are many different systems. And they unfortunately have run out of reserve compensatory mechanisms in one particular neuronal pathway. But they've got other pathways: vision, cognition, hearing, swallowing, speech, upper limb function, that has got reserve, and that's where we need to focus on protecting as well. That's the message I try and get across to people. Don't get despondent because your walking is deteriorating. We've got lots still to do in terms of protecting the other neuronal systems.
What percentage of people will move into this phase or will eventually lose their reserve capacity?
I don't know. I wish I could tell you that because, without any treatments from the past, so this is natural history studies that were done before we had treatments. I hate to depress you, but 80% of people with relapsing onset MS would end up being secondary progressive disease, and probably higher than that. Now that we have treatments, it's all changed. So just give you an example. There's a study done in North Italy where they've been collecting people from the same region and measuring their disability in exactly the same way over decades. So prior to DMTs, by the time you got to 60, 85% of people needed a walking stick. Then we got the first line DMTs, and that figure dropped to, if I remember correctly, it was around about 50% needed a walking stick. Now that we've got more effective therapies, that figure's dropped down to around 25%. Now that we've got new treatment strategies of using these treatments first line, flipping the pyramid, that figure is going to drop even lower in the new generation of people with multiple sclerosis.
When medication wasn't an option for me, I turned to things like physio and a fasting mimicking diet to try to influence my MS. How much of a difference will these interventions make for me? And is there anything else you recommend?
I personally think exercise is the most underprescribed disease-modifying treatment we have, full stop, okay? Now, what exercise you do is another story. WHO and the heart health community will tell you to do half an hour, 5 times a week with a moderate increase in your pulse. The sports physiologists will tell you to do HIIT, high-intensity interval training. It's much better. I think you need to work out yourself what suits you. But even if you are disabled, you can still exercise. Exercise releases endorphins. It hits your reward centers. It's antidepressant. It makes you sleep better. It improves your health in general. So you have to exercise, number one.
And in terms of what you were saying about exercise being available to everyone, there are some great online tools. For example, seated workouts and seated yoga, all kinds of things for people who are wheelchair users. You're right. You're absolutely right. Movement and exercise is available to everyone at every stage of MS.
So one of the things that we also know from the general population is that poor sleep, sleep deprivation or not getting good quality sleep is a really, really important risk factor for poor brain health. And when we study people with MS, we find the vast majority, and I'm talking about 80+%, have a sleep problem. So there's one thing you should focus on is trying to improve your sleep, because there's no doubt that if you're not getting good quality sleep, it's having an impact on your daytime functioning. So I think it's the real enormous elephant in the room is we haven't really optimized what I would call sleep hygiene or sleep health. That's something you can do yourself as a person with the disease. There's lots of things you can do around improving your sleep pattern.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just read in a recent MS Selfie newsletter that sleep apnea can be a risk factor for people with MS outside of the typical risks of obesity. So I shared that with my readers because I thought this is something that you should get checked, because this is an area that we can treat. And of course, sleep important for so many reasons, but also fatigue, which affects so many of us with MS. If we can get the sleep under control, that's a big deal.
Early intervention is key. With the new, highly effective treatments that have become available over the last few years, there's a lot of reasons to expect improved long-term outcomes for people with MS. The distinction between secondary progressive MS and other forms of MS can be a little blurry. Pay attention to your body and make sure to flag any changes with your MS team. I hope you found that video useful. You can find more MS content on our channel or click the link to watch the next MS video.